And welcome, everyone, to our weekly chat here, looking at the Power 36 and the AP poll. I'm Andy Katz from March Madness and NCAA.com, among others. All right, so first off, most importantly, actually, let's send our prayers to Keontae Johnson of Florida. A lot of reports out there about his condition, but bottom line is we're hoping and praying that he makes a full recovery. Obviously, he's at the beginning of that process right now after collapsing on the court for the University of Florida at their game at Florida State. It's been moved from Tallahassee to University of Florida Hospital there in Gainesville. So just want to get that out there first. Second thing, postponements and cancellations. We are seeing already some games being made up. Louisville against Wisconsin will be made up this weekend. That was a game supposed to be part of the ACC Big Ten Challenge. So that is being made up this weekend. We'll wait and see if Gonzaga-Baylor can be made up. Not very confident about that. And if that happens, I won't be surprised if Gonzaga has to find another big-time opponent, which I think they can. Gonzaga-Iowa is supposed to happen this weekend in South Dakota. Hopefully it will. Same with Virginia-Villanova at Madison Square Garden, which would be the first event, if I'm not mistaken, at Madison Square Garden, since everything was shut down with that Creighton-St. John's game in the Big East tournament last March. Conference games, said this on the pod, I will say this again, I am very confident that the conference games will all get made up in some form or fashion. Football, it's harder to do because they have so few weekend windows, especially the Big Ten, Pac-12, because they didn't start at the same time as the other leagues. And remember, the SEC started later in September, so that limited the amount of weeks that they had as well. And they had a finite ending, whereas, of course, college basketball does as well in March. At least that's the plan. But there's just more dates. You could play a game on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever, just to make sure it fits in. So I fully expect that to happen as we go forward. Some games in leagues like the Big East, Big 12, and the Pac-12, those three leagues have already had to reschedule. Some smaller, I say smaller, one-bid leagues like the America East, they've pushed theirs back a couple of days. I think in the Big South, they've had to push back some of their dates as well. But I ultimately think that they will certainly be made up. All right, let's look at the poll. Right off the bat, I'm going to address Travis's question because this relates to the poll, and that's West Virginia. That it's crazy I don't have West Virginia higher. So the question, of course, is how high? AP has 8. I have them at 10. Could I have put them ahead of Texas at 7 and ahead of Kansas at 8 and Creighton? Certainly. Their loss is to the number 1 Gonzaga. So that's debatable between 7 to 10. Do I think there's much of a difference between 7 and 10? No, I do not. Texas, Kansas, Creighton, West Virginia. Houston, when they've been playing, I think has been playing extremely well. And you look at their guard play. Marcus Sasser was not expected to be their leading scorer. He is. They ran away from Texas Tech at the end. So I feel comfortable the way Houston's playing right now in terms of the 6 spot. I think the top 5, those are, to me, those top 5 are the teams playing the best basketball in the country right now. AP, let's see, where do they have? They have Villanova. They have Kansas and Villanova swapped essentially with me. We both have Houston 6. Kansas, was one free throw away from going into overtime against Creighton. I felt like Creighton had the momentum there. So look, you could go any way with, I think, 7 to 10. I feel very good about Villanova at 5 versus AP at 7. So that's debatable. I have Texas at 7. They have Texas at 11. Missouri, I have 13, and Missouri 16. So we're within margin of error, if you will. San Diego State, I have at 15. They have them at 18. I think 3 to 4 spots is within the margin of error. Illinois, 14-13. Wisconsin, 12-16. Virginia, 18 versus 17. North Carolina, for me, 19-22 them. Oregon, 20 versus not ranked. Okay. St. Louis, not in the AP poll. Hello. How is St. Louis not in there? Ohio State, I have at 30. They have 20. I'm on board now with the Buckeyes, but look, the Duke pick at 21, they're just not playing well right now, and they lost 2 home games. You lose 2 home games, yes, to 2 of the best teams in the Big Ten. It's hard for me to justify you being in my poll in this snapshot in time. So that's why I don't have them ranked. Michigan at 25. We have the same pick there, 25-25. Florida State 15. I have them at 12. So not bad there. And then the back part, Texas Tech fans were on me hard that had Texas Tech at 33. Yet, look, Texas Tech hasn't beaten anyone yet. So let's see what happens this week. And I put Arkansas and Minnesota in the poll for the way that they're playing right now. So I think I get a little love for that, hopefully, from Arkansas and Minnesota. Hopefully they take note of that. Their fan bases that they see that I'm giving them recognition, which I think is deserved. Xavier 24. Xavier nowhere to be found in the AP poll. Don't get that. They're 7-0 after rocking Oklahoma. They're on pause right now. All right, let's go to some questions here. Zags, Baylor, and West Virginia are the best teams I've seen so far this year, says Brandon. Zags, Baylor, yes. You obviously have not watched Iowa, Michigan State, or Villanova. Garrett, what does Kentucky have to do to make the tournament? Got to win some games. It's pretty simple. They could go down to 1-5 if they lose to Ohio State in Cleveland. Or excuse me. No. Wait. Trying to remember this. It's UCLA and Carolina and Kentucky and Ohio State. Yeah, Kentucky could easily drop this game this week in Cleveland. All right. Cody, will Wisconsin finish the top 4 in the Big Ten? Yes. Braden, Iowa or Gonzaga? You have to listen to the podcast to see who I picked. How am I feeling, Nate, about Tennessee? Experience is going to matter big time. So I feel very good about Tennessee. To me, Tennessee and Missouri are the two best teams on camera here in the SEC. Thank you, Garrett. I was drawing a blank. Kentucky, UCLA. If they drop that, it's Ohio State, North Carolina. If Kentucky loses to UCLA, then they'd be 1-5. Adam says the Lobos are being overlooked. Nice win over Rice. Let's see how they play out going forward in the Mountain West, but San Diego State's the best team. Arkansas, top 5 team in the SEC, Tyler. Could be. I'd like them to play somebody. They haven't yet. Jeremy says, will Kansas win the Big 12? I'm going to say no, but it could be West Virginia or Baylor. I mean, and the prediction is Baylor, but it could be West Virginia. All right. Sammy, what are my thoughts on Northern Iowa with no A.J. Green? My thoughts are they're not going to make the postseason. I feel really bad for A.J. Green. Hip surgery. He's out for the season. Ben Jacobson. They played a really tough schedule to start the season. They've had a rough go. So I hope that A.J. comes back strong for next season. Chris Hoover, where's St. Louis essentially? They're 21. They play Minnesota this week on the road. That'll be a big determining factor, but they should be in the AP poll. I think Rutgers does beat Maryland. Thoughts on Georgia? Siobhan Wheeler. Andrew, off to a great start as a point guard. We recognized him last week. Travis thinks that they should have beaten Gonzaga, but the free throw fouls. Chris and Kathy want to know if Carolina can make a run in the tournament. They can. Caleb Love could be their third straight one-and-done point guard. Timothy thinks Deron Sharp needs more playing time. They got a lot of depth, obviously, up front. Why would I need to eat pepperoni rolls, John Dean, if West Virginia wins the Big 12? I just told you it might happen. I'm not a fan of pepperoni rolls. To each his own. I'm just not. if Louisville wins on the road at Georgia, where do I see them ranked? Are you talking about at Wisconsin? Well, they'll be certainly in the top 20 if that happens. Garrett, who I think is the most overrated team in the country? Ooh. Well, right now it's Duke because they shouldn't be 21. It'll bring out the Duke haters. I get a lot of Duke haters on this. Not Duke hater fans, but people that think that I hate them, and that is not true. I just don't think that the snapshot in time that they deserve to be ranked. Gonzaga overrated? No. Not at all. Watch the games. Kansas, Auburn, West Virginia. That's our sample size. So, totally disagree. Daniel, does Missouri have a chance for the Final Four? Why not? Tillman, Smith, Mark, Drew. They've got all the pieces. Pinson. Experience. I love the way Konzo has been coaching this group. Really locked in, focused. Steven says, thank you finally for putting Arkansas. I know their schedule's been light. That's why, but in the back part, I'm looking for teams that are playing really well, but their schedule's so light. Dylan wants to know why I have Kansas below Houston and Texas. Texas beat Carolina, did lose to Villanova, and the Kansas-Kentucky game, while they did win, was not a good watch. I didn't think they played well at all in that game. Kansas-Creighton game was one of the best games of the year. So I have just felt that Texas has been playing a hair better. I know they lost at home to Villanova. But as I said, at this point, we're really splitting hairs at 7, 8, 9, and 10. So I have no problem. If you want to go 6 to 10, that's fine. And if you want to debate and mix up that 6 through 10, or even 6 through 11 with Tennessee, or even 6 through 12 with Florida State, you can see as I go down, in Missouri, and Illinois, and San Diego State, and Wisconsin, the difference in those teams to me is razor thin, that you really could flip them all over the place. Alex, my thoughts on the NCAA tournament in Indy this year? I think it's going to be great. I'm going to be very positive. I think it's the only option to have it all in one place. We just saw the women announced they're going to have it in the state of Texas, ending in San Antonio, to deal with one set of health protocols, one state, one county. I think that's critical to get this to be pulled off. It's going to be kind of like the Olympics, where it's just going to all be concentrated probably in a shorter time period. And I think the attention of everything will be wonderful. And it'll just be, once we get going, we're going to just rip and run. I think it's going to be great. I'm going to be positive. Garrett wants to know, will there be fans? Don't know yet. I think we all have to wait and see about where we are as a country, where the state of Indiana is. I'll be surprised if there are many fans that are traveling in, but could there be fans in the state of Indiana where there are plenty of basketball fans? That, to me, would be more likely. John Dean, it's a travesty that Huggins is not in the Hall of Fame. I agree with you. He should be. I think he will be. Shelley agrees Dukes shouldn't be a top 25 team. Let's see. Brad, the Cuse can score. Let me tell you something, Brad. Buddy Bam back for that game against BC. The margin of victory in that game was incredibly impressive in that win over Boston College. So, yes, Syracuse can score. They struggled last year. Isaac Johns, is Hunter Dickinson the Big Ten Freshman of the Year? Interesting. I'd say he's definitely in the top 3 right now. He's had a great start to his year. He's replaced John Teskey. Austin Davis is hurt. He's been a huge, huge lift. Ryan, the fact that Duke canceled those games will not affect the NCAA tournament committee. Those games were going to mean nothing, against some of those one-bid league teams. No factor. So, Tyler wants to know for an American sleeper, I'd say SMU, not sleeper, but you could argue SMU. Dominic, my Final Four prediction right now. I have Gonzaga, Iowa in the title game. I think Villanova finds a way to get there. And then I could see any of these other teams that we talked about. Tennessee, West Virginia, Creighton, Kansas, maybe Houston, Illinois. I think I'd go in that list. So, all right. We went 15. That's a good run. Plenty of content. March Madness 365. We've got San Diego State's Brian Dutcher, Jordan Shackle joining me. Seth Davis from CBS Sports and The Athletic will be joining me, as well as Mike Bray, the head coach of Notre Dame. A little preview of their game against Duke. And all of us talking about everything that's happening in college basketball among all my guests. That's on March Madness 365. You can listen to it and download the podcast. Also, we'll have snippets, of course, on social media for you to watch as well. Appreciate it, everyone. Stay safe, and we'll talk again next week.